there's so many conversations that are approaching this from different angles. And the idea of parish, I think, is kind of around what you're talking about there, isn't it? That the idea
Yes.
of church being a parish, and I didn't know, but PCCs used to run things like the sewage for the community. You know, they would have responsibility for these kinds of issues in the community. And we've lost that really, haven't we? We've privatized almost Christianity to be something that is, you know, very personal, very distinct from life, requires us to adopt a different culture, rather than to become countercultural, we're kind of subcultural. And perhaps that's been the way that God has been at work previously. But I don't see that it's the way that's ahead of us. I don't see that in my own community. I see lots of the most interesting things that the church do happen when we are partnering with other people, when we are listening as well as speaking, and when we're just being a more human version, perhaps, than the professional Christian role, which I'm not sure impresses people. I'm not impressed with it. When I meet someone who's got all the pat answers and they know all the jargon, and I just want to know what their life is like. I want to know what their family is like. I want to know if they live this out, rather than just, do you see what I mean? Is this part of the problem now? The packaging has almost become too glittery.
Well, you're pressing into what the billboard represents, in the sense that obviously what we mean by billboard are the kind of churches that we've created. We've created a highly privatized, individualized society of buying commodity, in which accountability for what goes on in the local, in the parish, has been given out to the state or whatever. So what's left but privatized religion?
Yeah.
And that is utterly contrary to the gospel.
Totally.
And so I think you're right. One of the, I would say this to all of us here, whether we're Anglicans or Baptists, just asking the question of what is parish, because parish is a social geographical community, which in the vision of Isaiah, the healing of community and of how food gets, all of these things, this is gospel. It's not social work. It's not all this kind of, it's gospel. And so part of going beyond the billboard is a fundamental reimagining of being church as parish for the sake of the community in which we live, not to augment individual, personal, spiritual experience. That's part of what's at stake here. This is not just a nice, groovy idea. I think it's the Spirit of God saying, I'm not in the billboard anymore. I can't wait. I'm out in these neighborhoods and communities. You got to come join with what I'm doing.
Yeah. I think what's ahead as well is possibly smaller gatherings of, somebody there mentioned about small groups. I think that that's possibly a way that people are going to organise that core Christian experience. I think the idea of covenant is very important. I think Christian communities will always need covenant. The billboard version for me, because I'm a Baptist, was membership. You know, that was the billboard, and there was good stuff in there. What membership meant was covenant. It meant commitment. It meant responsibility. It meant prayer. It meant finance. Now, the idea of membership is falling away somewhat, but within it was this beautiful truth of covenant. Now, I believe what Christians are going to find is that post-membership churches will need to find new ways to covenant. And my guess is that they're going to be higher levels of covenant. So more communal living, more sharing of resources. So in the church plant, the majority of us at some point or another had all lived together. We had shared cars. You know, it was just because we were living in a part of London that was very expensive to rent. So we didn't plan to have shared living as part of our covenants for each other, but it happened. And it was essential. And it was where our discipleship and the training of new leaders happened, was because we all lived together. Now, my guess is beyond the billboard, there'll be smaller groups of covenanted communities who are absolutely committed to a particular locality, maybe not for 5 generations, but for a time. And they won't have huge amounts of membership, but they will have huge amounts of impact and a transformation that I believe people are looking for from within their own lives. So I think that I can kind of guess what's coming, but I don't feel the need to rush to that. I think that God is going to unfold this in my own community and will gently and carefully challenge me to go on that journey that Abraham and Sarah went with. And he will tell me enough times a very clear vision of the next path. And in the meantime, I'm just feeling my way, enjoying the adventure of not having so many certainties around what I think is going to happen week to week as a minister. You know, it's always messy, it's always surprising. It's also beautiful.